Hello all. Once again it's me Amy. Welcome back to the channel. So, I recently asked you guys if you had any questions about the OIST research internship, and I received so many really good questions. A lot of them were about IELTS, Japanese, recommendation letters, documents, the SOP and the application process. So, in today's video, I'm going to answer those questions based on my own application experience and the information provided by OIST. So, let's get started. Let's start with one of the most common question. So, how long is the OIST internship? According to OIST, the internship can be anywhere from 4 months to 6 months within one internship period. So, the minimum duration is 120 days and the maximum is 6 months. The exact schedule can be depending on the research unit and the internship arrangement. And OIST also noted that the schedule is subject to change. So when you're planning to apply, make sure you are actually available for that period. So my advice on this particular thing is you should make sure that you have approval from your college for the period of your particular internship. In my case, I talked with my institute about the time period that I could be away for, and my institute was pretty much flexible, and that's how I chose my dates of coming here. And I think you should also do that. So, talk to your home institute about that and find a comfortable date which is possible for you. Now, over to the next question. This is probably the question I get asked the most. So, no, IELTS or TOEFL is not required for the OIST research internship application. So, OIST specifically states that an English proficiency score is optional. So, if you have an IELTS or TOEFL score and you think it strengthens your application, you can definitely upload it. But if you don't have one, you can still apply without it. So don't spend, I would say, like, don't spend money taking an English proficiency test just because you think it's mandatory for OIST. So in my case, I did not had any English proficiency score and I applied without one and it was perfectly fine. Another very common question: do I need to know Japanese? No. So, Japanese proficiency is not listed as a requirement for the research internship, and this makes sense, because OIST is a highly international research environment with the researchers and students from all over the world. So, here the research environment is primarily English speaking. So, inside the campus, you need not learn Japanese before applying. And yes, of course, knowing some Japanese can definitely make your everyday life in Okinawa easier and can be a great experience. But this isn't an application requirement. Like for in my case, I do not know Japanese at all, but the people are really, really sweet. Whenever I go outside the campus for grocery shopping or for sightseeing, everybody are ready to help you. Nobody demands you to know Japanese. It's very convenient. So if you really want to know how my daily life here at OIST is, please do mention that in the comments below so I can show you that. If you want to know how I do the grocery shopping, I can talk about that. So please do mention below. And before going to the next question, I would like to tell you guys something. So please subscribe, like, and comment in this particular video because this is kind of a reward system for me. I do take some time to make this video, and if I see some people liking, commenting, and subscribing in my channel, it would make me really happy, and I would be, it's kind of a reward system for me. So I would be so much eager to share more and more informations with you. So please do that, guys. So yes, over to the next question. Now let's talk about the application documents because this is where a lot of applicants get confused. So OIST accepts the application online. So you need to create an account on the application website, as you all know. Then the documents need to be prepared in English and uploaded as a PDF file. This is a very important thing. Your documents need to be in English. So the main documents include academic transcripts, diploma if you have already graduated, then statement of purpose, CV, recommendation letter, then passport information, ID photo. And there is also an optional English proficiency score. So yeah, these are all the documents which you will need, and you can know more informations as you actually open up your application, because each and every year this get renewed, and some of the details which you will need for this year will be more than last year. So this was a really good question, because there are a lot of people who are applying from different areas of the world. So OIST specifically says that an English explanation is required for transcripts that are not written in English. So if your transcript is in another language, don't just upload the original document and assume that's enough. You need to provide the required English explanation according to OIST instructions. So if you don't know what are the instructions, I would recommend to follow up that with OIST. OIST do have a helpline or an email to communicate with them, and they do communicate with you in a very efficient manner. They do reply to you, so reach out to them. So yeah, so this is different from saying that you absolutely need to get every document professionally translated and certified. The current OIST instructions specifically mention an English explanation for transcripts that aren't in English. So make sure you follow the instruction on the application portal for your intake. So this is another important question, especially for the students who are graduating around the time they're applying. So OIST actually address this directly. That is, if you have already graduated, you should provide your complete diploma along with your academic transcript. So, and if you haven't had your graduation yet and don't have a diploma, OIS says that you can upload a certificate of enrollment from your institution. And somebody have asked me that if I have uploaded a certificate of enrollment. Yes, I have applied my certificate of enrollment from my institute. So this should actually indicate your expected graduation date. So the certification of enrollment can be anything. Like for me, it was my ID card, which have my expected graduation date. So not having your final degree certification does not automatically prevent you from applying. So just make sure that you apply the appropriate document for your current academic status. So if you already graduated, and if you do not have a final degree certificate, make sure you address this with your home institute and ask them what is the option you have other than your graduation certificate. They pretty much have something else in form of transcript maybe, or in form of some other certificate which state that you have already graduated. And if none of these are available from your home institute, do reach out to OIST and make sure that you get clarified regarding the document which you would want to upload, because they do communicate to you in really fast way. So make sure you reach out to OIST. So to answer this question, yes, you need a passport, but there is an important detail here which you should think about. That is, the application system do ask you to provide your passport number and upload a scan of your passport photo page. But OIS says that having a valid passport is essential for the applicants from outside Japan, because of course you will need it to travel to Japan. However, if you don't have a passport at the time of application, OIS says you can upload another government issued identification document instead. In my case, I did have my passport at that time, so I applied via my passport. But you can go with your whatever other government approved identification document you have if you do not have the passport at the time of your application. So if you're currently thinking, I don't have my passport yet, so I cannot apply, don't panic. Check the current application instruction and use the alternative identification document that OIST allows. But obviously, eventually you will need a valid passport for international travel. So this is a question which I get a lot. So what about the statement of purpose? How to write it? What is the template that we should follow? Like, I get a lot of this question. So you should understand one thing: the SOP required for OIST is very, very short. OIST says the statement of purpose should be no more than 250 words, or 1500 characters. That is very, very short for SOP. So you should clearly have a good idea in what you have to write. Like, don't drag around, don't write too much or too little. You have to make it perfect, because it's just 250 words. That's just it's too small. And they have specifically want to address two different things. Listen carefully. That is, the first thing is, what do you hope to accomplish at OIST? And the second one, how does a research internship at OIST fit with your overall career plan or aspiration. So, what does that mean? You do not write an entire essay about your entire life. You have a limited word count, so every sentence need to have a purpose. So I would recommend that you focus on your research interest, what you want to learn at OIST, why OIST is relevant, and how that experience connects you to your future goals. I have already repeated this in several of my videos, but I think I need to say this more. So yes, so this is what your SOP should be. Now, before asking this question, I also had another question asking me if I got into my first preference, that is, my first preferred unit. Fortunately and luckily enough, I did got into my first preferred unit. I was very lucky enough, and this is exactly I tell you guys that you have to, instead of choosing going for something, you know you might have so many biases. You might think, might assume a lot of things. You might assume that this particular unit is easy to get into, or the other one is. But rather than going in that direction, I would actually ask you people to go for what you are interested in. That is what I did, and that is what I got into. So, to answer this particular question, should my SOP be tailored to a particular unit? I was also asked, was my SOP tailored toward a particular unit? So, yes, I would recommend making your SOP relevant to your research you're applying for, not a particular unit. I'm again saying relevant to your research. So, you're not applying to OIS just because you want to, live in Japan or for some other reason. You're applying because you want to gain research experience. So, the research unit you are interested in, understand what they are working on and explain how that connects to your own interest and the future plans. So, please don't write OIST is a prestigious university and Japan is my dream country and all. Instead, show that you understand the research environment you're applying to. So that is my recommendation about tailoring your SOP. So yeah, and also you to be honest, I think you have 5 options to choose this time. I think when I was choosing, I had 3. If my memory is right, I think I had 3. So think about it. In 250 words, you cannot write about 3 units differently, because you really do need to write what you need, right? So it's totally according to you. Like I personally think that you can write about the unit, but maybe one line, a single line about each unit, not more than that, because I don't think if you totally write a long paragraph, one paragraph about one unit will be 250 words. So yeah, so be careful about that and make it according to your word limits and all. Now to the next question: how many recommendation letters do I need? So first of all, let me talk about what OS needs when they talk about recommendation letter. Your letter, that is the recommendation letter, needs to be in English and should come from a professorial level faculty who you know and can describe your academic potential as a researcher. So, letters from our lab members or postdocs are not eligible according to the current OIST requirement. Also, you can only submit your application after at least one recommendation letter has been received in the application system. And you don't submit the letter yourself. OIST specifically says that they do not accept direct submissions from the applicants. So, make sure your recommenders know how the submission process works and give them enough time. I have been specifically asked how recommendation should be asked, like what is the process and how many recommendations should you go for. So I would say that when you are asking for recommendation letters, go for teachers who knows you, who knows your potential, or have worked with you. Instead of getting a recommendation letter from your dean or the HOD who does not know anything about you, it's always better to go to people who actually knows you. So that is one way. You should approach them, or you should mail them asking, like, just tell to them that I am going to apply for so and so internship and they require some recommendation letter. Can I give your name as a referee? This is the way you have to go for that. This is the way I did it. And make sure that you give them enough time. Don't go for last minute recommendation letters. Like, don't go like, okay, I have one week till the deadline, so right now I'm going to ask to one professor. No, don't do that. That is a very bad manners towards the professor, because they are very busy. So please plan in advance. So yeah, that's my advice on how many recommendation. I'm sorry, I did not still say about how many recommendation you need. Yeah, that's my advice on what you should do for getting a recommendation letter. Now, about how many recommendation do you need? So OIS requires 1 to 3 recommendation letters. You need not need to find letters to fill out your slots, because it's very important that each of them have some value. So instead of, suppose you are going to fill out 3 out of 3, and if 2 of them are very generic, that actually gives a very bad impression about you to the committee. So instead of having 3 out of 3, 1 or 2 which are really great is more than enough. In my case, I did have 3 recommendation letters, and if you have 3 referees who can actually give good recommendation letter, that is great. So definitely go for 3 if you have such 3 people who can refer for you. So yes, that's my answer for that. Now, this was probably one of the most important questions. Someone asked that I'm not a topper or rank holder, but I'm genuinely curious and passionate about research. How should I approach my recommendation letters? So, my advice would be, don't choose your recommendation based only on their position or how famous they are. Choose professors who actually know you. So, you want someone who can specifically give specific examples of your academic ability, curiosity, research potential, ability to learn, and yeah, so and so. So a generic letter saying you are a good student isn't particularly useful. A detailed letter explains why the professor believes in you and you have the research potential is much more stronger. So if you are not a topper, don't try to hide that. Instead, make sure that rest of your application demonstrate your curiosity, research experience, motivation, and potential. Because research is never about topping something or being the first. It's just about curiosity. So don't worry about that. Now I would also like to tell another question, that is, should I use all 3 of my recommendation? That I've already said that no. OIST allows 1, 2, 3 recommendation letters. That does not mean you automatically need 3. If you have 3 professors who genuinely knows about your work and can provide strong recommendation letter, so yeah, what else do I need? You will also need your CV summarized, your academic background, research experience, skills, and accomplishment. Once again, when I tell research experience, if you don't have any, it is completely okay and normal, because I have seen people with technical background who does not have any research experience coming over here and gaining new ones. So it's okay. Then yeah, and you will also need a recent ID photo taken within the last 3 months. Actually, even if you don't have it, if your photo is not up to the match, after you getting in, they will probably ask you to take a new one. That happened for me. I actually applied with a very old one, and after getting in, they actually asked me a new ID photo which was taken within the last 3 months, so I had to go for a new one. So yeah, I would suggest to not leave these things until the last minute, because I had to rush for these kind of stuff, after I got in. Yeah. And one more final advice, if you're thinking about applying to OIST, don't reject yourself before the selection committee gets a chance to. Okay. So this is something which I have to say from my life. So you maybe not a topper, maybe you don't have IELTS, maybe you don't know Japanese, maybe you're from a small college. I myself am from a private university and I have doubted myself. But none of those things should automatically make you decide that you aren't qualified. So please read the eligibility requirements carefully. Please go through the official website. Please choose your research unit that genuinely matches your interest, and prepare a focused SOP. And most importantly, don't apply just because it's Japan. Apply because there is a research at OIS that you are genuinely wanting to experience. Yeah. So so that's it for today's OS Q&A. I hope these answered some of your questions about the application process, documents, IELTS, recommendation letters, and SOP. So if you have any other questions that I didn't answer, leave it in the comments. And if you're planning to apply to OS, subscribe, because I'll keep sharing more about the actual experience. Okay, I'm going to, like, next video I'm planning to share about my life here, then about the food itinerary, then about the campus, the life at campus and stuff like that. So do follow along for more advices, more about OIST, more about research in general. So yes, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.